We have reached the point of the NHL season where Frank is showering with his phone. Welcome to Frankly Hockey. It is Wednesday, February the 4th, 2026. NHL Olympic roster freeze today, Frank. 3 o'clock. Is the phone buzzing? Is it vibrate? Is it a Bonnie Tyler song? What do you use to notify yourself you have a text?
IV drip, apparently. It is vibrate, but you're right. You've gone to some sick places when you keep the phone pressed up to the glass on the shower and you have to like stick your hand out and tap it and be like, all right, what's happening here? That there's a tweet notification. Oh wait, there's a text. Better get on that. So less than 3 hours now remaining to the NHL's Olympic roster freeze, and many teams around the league suspecting that Artemi Panarin will be on the move between now and then, but we'll get into why it has been a wild goose chase trying to nail down some details.
All right, so we're here live for you. Something happens, you'll hear it here first, of course, on Frankly Hockey. 10 games tonight. Stars home to the Blues on Victory Plus. Red Wings at Utah. I'm looking forward to that one. That's a juicy game to me. Happy birthday, Hall of Famer Denny Savard, Frank. 13 years in Chicago, 3 years in Montreal, 105 games in Tampa. Forgot about that. And then back to Chicago for a couple. 65 years old, traded in the summer of 1990 for Chris Chelios. That was Chicago got the best years of Denny Savard. Then they flip him for Chris Chelios, who would win 2 Norris trophies with the Blackhawks.
And then Savard won another cup in Montreal in 93, right?
Did he?
I don't know. I'm asking. This is like slightly before my time. I think he did.
That's terrible. That's terrible. I'll get that. Darnell Nurse you look it up. Darnell Nurse is 31. Dallas Strake is 57. So Denny Savard to Montreal.
And his only
93.
Stanley Cup, 1993. Montreal.
There you go.
Yeah.
So good for him. Yeah, I remember that picture now on the ice, now that you say about it. Now you talk about that. All right, Franks and Beans, before we get to the rundown, the Ducks get their 30th win last night. First time they've reached 30 wins after 56 games in 11 years. Cutter Gauthier, first Duck skater, 22 or younger, to get 25 goals in a season. Bobby Ryan did that. And hey, how about this? We got Joel Quenneville on the show later on Frankly Hockey to talk about the Ducks' resurgence. That's pretty cool. What, 999 career wins now, Frank?
Yep, only Scotty Bowman has 1,000, so pretty elite company.
It's going to be fun talking to Q. I'm going to ask him, Frank, if he remembers who he scored his first NHL goal against and his last NHL goal against. That's my first question.
Maybe you just allowed him time to prep if he's watching.
Oh, no. Hopefully he's not. All right, Kiefer Sherwood, full participant in the Sharks' 45-minute practice in Chicago Tuesday. He skated with Celebrini and Smith. Sharks in Colorado tonight. Sounds like he makes his debut tonight, Frank.
Yes, that is the plan. And I know that he hasn't played yet, but I'm pretty surprised that the Sharks knew what the price would be to extend Kiefer Sherwood, and after making the trade for 2 second-round picks, have not done it yet. So I don't know if they're trying to grapple with that or what, or if they're potentially thinking about flipping him later, but they knew what the price was. Everyone did on the market. It's somewhere between 5 and 6 years, somewhere between 5 and 6 million. And they haven't bucked up to pay yet.
Man, that's a lot. Panthers, Bruins tonight. Sam Bennett is back. Looks like Lundell will likely play, but Marchand is not. He's out, but still Olympics. Like, is this just like a make good for a veteran? Like if there were no Olympics, would he be playing? And they're just giving him, it's like, hey, we're giving you a solid here. You helped us win a cup last year. You probably could go, but take a few more days so you can have fun at the Olympics and win a gold medal.
Well, that's been the sneaking suspicion from some teams, is that if they try and pull off an Artemi Panarin trade today, that they may sit out players who have been injured because they've got the capability to do so because they are legitimately injured and have been playing through it. I doubt that that's their game plan, but I saw Biz mentioned on social media yesterday, this season's too condensed. Why are we trying to play this many games in an Olympic year? And I wanted to just reply back and say, but Biz, we're playing 84 next year, not 82. So it doesn't get any easier.
Yeah. And teams can rest players if they want. Hey, we're going to sit you out one game a month. You're going to play 78 games this year. Players, you can do that if you want. There are ways around it if you think it is too much. John Tavares scored last night. He's got 16 20-goal seasons, Frank, joining Ovechkin, Crosby, Kane, and Stamkos with guys with 16. 514 career goals for Tavares. He's an interesting Hall of Fame case. No major awards, only 2 top 3 Hart finishes. Other than that, nothing really close. Not a great playoff record. I think he'll get in probably because he'll probably retire with 600 because he's going to play 3 more years. But, there are interesting guys like that, right? You kind of open up a can of worms when you allow one guy in.
Right on the borderline for me. And
Yeah.
here's another interesting wrinkle to the Tavares file. If the Leafs go down this path selling, I know he's committed to them, wants to be a Leaf. At any point, does he get a twinge of, hey, I want to win, and then take that really solid contract that he signed and go play elsewhere? I don't know.
Right.
I'm not predicting it, just saying I wonder if it's a possibility if they do decide to go down the sell path. But naturally, the Leafs are muddying the water a bit, winning 3 straight. I mean, of course they would after kind of making the declaration that they're planning on selling.
Right. Isles beat the Penguins in overtime. They are 19-5 last night in overtime. 19-5-5 in 1-goal games. Impressive. They're 6-0 in the 5-minute OT this year, Frank. That could be a Schaefer factor as well. Only unbeaten team in games decided by overtime, and they're 4-5 in the shootout. Utah, only team in the league, hasn't been involved in a shootout this year. 0. Kings 10, Islanders 9. And how about the Penguins, Frank? 1-7 in the shootout. 3-5 in overtime. Flip those, and they have 76 points, and they're tied with the Canadiens for first, or with Carolina for first in the Metro. Instead, just a 5-point playoff cushion on Columbus, Washington, Toronto, as you just mentioned, with 25 games left. So that's a 5-point cushion is not a lot. And again, that's why that's so weird that those over the 3-on-3 and the shootout, 2 things not involved in the postseason, affects your postseason appearance.
I blame the Kings and the Golden Knights. They both have 14 overtime games played to this point, and the record is 18. OT losses. The record is 18 in one season. One of them is likely going to smash that, particularly how close it's going to be over the last 25 games or so.
Lightning 18-1-1 now in their last 20. They win in overtime last night against Buffalo. Darren Radish, the price keeps going up. Another goal, 17 on the year. He's a UFA this summer. Matthias Samuelsson, 2 goals. Buffalo has 3 defensemen with at least 10 goals. Byram, Dahlin, and Samuelsson. Only team in the league that can say that. And the first time the Sabres have ever done that as an organization. Samuelsson, Dahlin, and Byram. And Buffalo is a playoff team. It's a lock, Frank. They're good. We talked about it. Remember a month ago we played that, would you trade this roster for that roster with Buffalo? And we were like, no. They're a good team. They're in. Book it.
Yeah, they are going to make it. Here's another interesting defensive stat question. Matthew Schaefer hit 16 last night, tracking toward Brian Leach's rookie record of 23. Does he get there?
23. I thought it was 27 with Housley. Now different. I saw maybe that was a teenager stat. 20. He can get to 23. I saw a 27 stat. I don't know if that might have been a teenager goal scored by a defenseman. But
so Leach had 23 as a 20-year-old in 1988-89.
Okay.
This is just rookie record.
Okay,
and Housley had 19 in his rookie year. He got to 31 in his sophomore year, which is
right. I know.
Different time.
I know. Well, when Mike Modano became the all-time USA-born record, the one that Kane just broke, he broke Phil Housley's record. Housley was the record holder when Modano broke his record. Pretty impressive. Yeah, a whole different time. Hurricanes 9-game point streak. They're cooking. One reason why, Frank, Jacob Slavin's back. In those 9 games, plus 10. Like, he is back as a guy, and he's ready for the Olympics, too.
Remember I mentioned that phone call that they caught on tape, Bill Guerin and Jacob Slavin, and said, you've got a plan, stick to it, you're going to be ready to go. Like, they've managed this almost perfectly for both the Kane season and the playoffs, and now also the Olympics. Kind of rare to see a team really take their foot off the gas. Everyone wants to get these players in the lineup as quickly as possible. Man, they've done some really good work.
Another 20-goal season for Sebastian Aho, 10 straight. That ties Ron Francis's franchise record. Whaler/Hurricane, Joel Quenneville, a teammate of Ron Francis in Hartford. Blue Jackets, 6 straight win, 9-1 under Rick Bowness. They're the best team in the league since he became the coach on January the 13th. Merzlikins' first shutout of the season for him. Devils shutout for the 6th time. We'll talk about the Devils in the rundown. And speaking of Columbus, kind of cool. Jeff Rimmer retired after last year, but coming back to work the game tonight in Chicago. Mearsy is on assignment for Columbus. Pretty cool that he gets to do that. I'm sure he's so pumped to come back and call a game tonight for Columbus, in Columbus against the Blackhawks.
Who says you can't go home?
Yeah, it's awesome. That's great. And one more Franks and Beans note before we hit the rundown. Hockey Hall of Famers Jack Paca and Jerry York, they'll do the ceremonial puck drop prior to Monday's Beanpot final game between BU and BC. Very cool. Remember, Parker just went into the Hockey Hall of Fame. York went in as well. These guys grew up together in the greater Boston area. One went to BU. York went to BC, of course. They graduated 1 year apart, coached together against each other all those years, and they will drop the ceremonial puck Monday in the Beanpot final between BU and BC. All right, on to the Frankly Hockey Rundown. And again, the latest on Artemi Panarin. Again, to remind you, he's 34 years old, turns 35 in the fall, 57 points in 52 games this year, still a 90-point guy, hasn't played since January the 26th as the Rangers try to deal him to a desirable spot. Again, he owns full no-trade power. Frank, what's the latest? Will he be dealt before the roster freeze today, do you think? Where are we at percentage-wise?
Oh, I'd say it's pretty high. I mean, somewhere between 80 and 90%. Not a done deal or guarantee by any stretch of the imagination, but these last few hours are going to be really interesting because there seem to be a couple different teams at work on this file on Tuesday, particularly in the evening, but didn't get it over the finish line. And so, look, here's the thing. This has been really one of the more fascinating potential trades that I've ever covered. And the reason for that is we've never really seen a player go through basically unrestricted free agency right in the middle of the season. That's what Artemi Panarin is doing. He is auctioning off his services for the future right now. All 31 other teams can be in the mix. They can all make their pitch to his agent. They've gotten the clearance from the Rangers to do that. And believe me, there were some teams that you would not expect that we can digest after this process that made very significant pitches to try and land Panarin. Now, what's happened in the last few days is that there's a number of teams that really don't know how to handicap this. And the Rangers have been ultra quiet because they don't have any control or say. It's essentially Panarin's going to come back to them at some point, probably now-ish, and say, okay, these are the number of teams, or this is the team that I would like to be dealt with. Get the deal done. I believe the Rangers, with a couple of those sort of teams that are in the inner circle, so to speak, that the Rangers have had talks and have set up the parameters and framework of what a trade would look like, or the idea of what a trade would look like, so that they would be able to pull the trigger and execute at some point today. The reason why I'm uncomfortable speculating on exactly which teams are the front runners, are in that inner circle, is because it's been changing. Not only has it been changing, but some teams have essentially believed that they've been out and then are sort of then brought back in and kept in the on deck circle. They don't know how to read that because they think that at some point they might be sort of held hostage at the last second. It's going to take X to get this over the finish line, or else we're going somewhere else. Or they're wondering if they're a backup plan or whatever it might be. So teams that have thought, Bucci, that they were close to a deal have then also had the Panarin camp come back to them later and say, oh, well, we were talking about X, but it's really going to need to be Y in terms of that next deal. And so this has gone around and around in circles. And the Rangers, of course, they just want to keep want to keep Panarin happy. They want to make sure that this gets done. So they're not getting in the way. They're allowing the Panarin camp to do whatever it is that they decide. And they're just saying, okay, tell us when it's over.
Do you think this handful of teams, how many there are, they've made their personnel offer? Now it's just about the team making a deal with Panarin.
Yes. Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
Rangers have put a couple different plans in place. If it's this team, this is what we're looking for. If it's that team, the tough part is what happens if Panarin comes back to them, or came back to them, now I could say it past tense potentially, and said, hey, I only want to go to one team. And what
Right.
happens if that team knows? That's the other part. But the
Yeah.
Rangers, I believe, have kept a lot of faith in Panarin's camp and the process, hoping that they're going to be given a selection of teams in order to try and get a deal done. But in the end, he's only going to be signing in one place. So this has really been fascinating to watch.
Yeah, right. So if the best deal Chris Drury likes is this team A, but then Panarin says, I'm only going to go to Dallas, but their package is not as good. Then what do you do when you're Chris Drury? Do you wait out it again? Do you wait till after the Olympics and take it to the next deadline to see if someone gets an injury and that's a tough position.
They don't want to do that.
They don't. Yeah.
They want to just get this done by 3:00 and have a huge sigh of relief. So look, this is a ballpark guess, like, because everyone wants to know. I think if I were to draw a circle, I would say some combination of Carolina, Tampa, Florida, Washington. Now, could one of those other teams jump in? Detroit or Dallas or someone else? Yes. I think at this point, a bunch of the other teams that have made pitches know enough to know that they weren't seriously contenders. So that's where I'd handicap it right now. But again, I do not feel very confident. I thought for a long time last night that the Carolina Hurricanes were pretty close. And I hesitated and waited because there's been a lot of dark arts to this.
And you wonder what are the I don't know, ethics is a bit of a strong word, but like what is the responsibility of the Panarin camp to be kind of, but I guess it's not them who went to the Rangers, asked for a trade. It's the Rangers who said we're going to trade you. So I guess in some regard, they can flex their power and not try to make it easy for Chris Drury, but in the same token, not make it difficult on purpose.
Well, I think the relationship has been really good, which is important. And Panarin's agent also has Egor Chinakhov there. So I think everyone wants to keep up those good relations. And I think in the end, you want to try and make sure that you're not handcuffing the team. But Paul Theophanis, the agent, his only job is to make sure that Artemi Panarin is happy and looked after. So that's not, sometimes these things run counter to what the team is looking for and wants. And I just think the way that this has all unfolded, it's, we don't know yet how many teams are going to be presented. We might not know. But if you're a Ranger fan, I'm sure you have to sit there and brace for, this is not the same thing as a typical trade deadline deal where there's, multiple opportunities or options.
All right, so we are on Panarin standby, and obviously Frank's refreshing the phone, blister on the thumb, and we're here live until 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. And let's move on now, and let's speak of the Devils. Devils season on life support, shut out for the 6th time last night, 9 points out of 3rd in the Metro with only 26 games left. A 20-win, 6-loss finish gets them to 98 points. That's what we're kind of looking at here. And it's just gone south for the Devils, Frank.
20-6 gets them to 98, and 98 at this point might not be enough because the 8th place team is on track for 99.
Right.
Historically, the bar to barrier to entry is 95. But your point is well made and well illustrated that the math isn't mathing for New Jersey. So if we think Toronto's out and Philly's out and all these other teams in the mid, Washington might be out. Well, the Devils are their 15th place in the East. And I think more concerning is, listen to Jack Hughes. This was on Tuesday.
Good poker face.
Start in October, November, December, January dipped a little bit. For fans that have kind of lost faith and looking at the standings, what do you want to tell them that makes them think that this team can go on a run?
Honestly, I have nothing to say to them. Honestly, like for us, it's just our group. We gotta.
What do you say to the fans who are looking for some faith in how you can turn this around? He said, I honestly have nothing to say to them. Yikes.
Jack's honest. You know, I know what he means and what he's talking about. Like, we can't worry about that. We got to take care of stuff in the room first. I think that's what he means. And I think he is a popular player. I don't think your average Devil fan will be offended by that. They're upset. But yeah, it's just, and that's the thing, to go 20-6, you need to be prepared to do that and to go on a run like that for 2 months. And obviously that's why those teams, you know, when you look at a team, could they be the one to come back? Could Washington be that team? Well, they've struggled on the road this year. They lose in Philly last night. And there's a lot, you know, and speaking of Philly, let's turn to them and Daniel Briere, who's been on.
By the way, I want to just mention one quick thing on the Devils before we move on. And this was interesting that came up while I was canvassing the league about the Nashville Predators and their GM posts. There are a lot of potential candidates that are believing or suspecting that there will be a GM change in New Jersey at the end of the season. Not a shock if they end up finishing where they are right now in the standings, right. But there are people that are preparing for that eventuality, as the Devils, sources indicate to me, are evaluating all aspects of their operation.
Keep that in mind. Let's go to Philadelphia now. Turn your head and Michkov. Daniel Briere trying to quiet the noise as they nice win last night, 4-2 against Washington. But again, looks like their season's slipping away a bit. What do you think is the game plan and the reason for Daniel Briere's soundbite here?
Well, this became white hot, and we'll listen to Danny Briere in a second, but just to set the scene, essentially social media had blown up with some appearances that the Flyers brass, from CEO Dan Hilferty all the way through to head coach Rick Tock, had made over the weekend at their charity event. Fans are upset with this team's dive in the standings. They're upset with the ice time for Matvei Michkov. So let's listen to Danny Briere, who tries to quiet this down a little bit.
When Matvei arrived earlier than expected, we knew there would be some bumps along the way, and that's kind of what is happening. The other thing I can tell you, and I talk to Rick Tock on a daily basis, he wants Matvei to succeed. He wants to develop him to be the best player he can be. And along the way, there's tough lessons that comes with that. That's like raising a child. He's there's tough lessons that he's learning. It doesn't matter if he's playing, 12, 14, 16, or even if he's...
I like the haircut. He looks like the third Pet Shop Boy, straight from 1988. I love it.
Look, this has been a tough stretch for the Flyers. There's no doubt about it. And they're trying to manage Matvei Michkov and his development, which we know is not a straight line. He did see more ice time in their game on Tuesday night. And essentially, the Flyers don't have a coach problem. They have a talent problem. And that's part of this rebuild, is that it's a lot of their pieces aren't here yet. It's going to take them time. And that patience sort of goes out the window when fans see a team in a playoff spot after 40 games. They want it right now. And the Flyers aren't ready for that right now. And that's part of this process, is trying to manage those expectations, not just for the team, but for individual players that you're going to have to sift through. So interesting spot that the Flyers are in right now.
Yep, and they see the Penguins doing well in Western Pennsylvania, and that probably gnaws at them a little bit as well. From Michkov to turn your head in Chinakhov. How about Egor Chinakhov? 8 goals in 17 games. That's a 38-goal pace, Frank, through an 82-game regular season. Again, traded by the Blue Jackets to Pittsburgh. That was 4 days after Christmas. And for a third-round pick, Danton Heinen. And we said he might pop, and he's popping for the Penguins.
He is, and it was interesting because a couple weeks ago about the addition that the Montreal Canadiens made with Alexander Texier, and we were thinking, okay, what a smart move around the margins here for the Canadiens to add a player who was in a tough spot in St. Louis, free agent. They're able to bring him in. In this case, The Penguins trade a little bit of capital to go after a guy who had become a depressed asset in Columbus. And now he arrives in Pittsburgh. And since he got there, he's top 25 in the league in goals, which I don't know that anyone saw coming, but has fit in really well for a Penguins team that could have just used that little boost. And not only that, but if he can stick and if this is what he can be moving forward, also fits their age scheme as well.
Perfect. Absolutely. All right. As we mentioned at the top, our special guest today on Frankly Hockey is the head coach of the Anaheim Ducks, Joel Quenneville. The Q-Stash is with us. There he is. A glorious day. Where are you, Joel? Where do we find you this morning?
Newport Beach.
Oh,
not
geez.
bad. It's going to be like
is...
90 today.
Life is tough for Joel Quenneville at Newport Beach. That is awesome. So, Joel, of course, you played 803 NHL games with Toronto, the Colorado Rockies, the Devils, the Whalers, the Caps. Do you have a game-worn Colorado Rocky jersey framed and hung in your home?
I do not, but I do have I think I got it framed, but I do have the 22 Colorado Rocky jersey. I don't know where it is, though.
That's a good collection of sweaters. Do you remember who you scored your first NHL goal against, Joel?
Oh, geez. Dan, it was against Philly, 2-1, and it was a game winner at Rick St. Croix, Maple Leaf Gardens, just a couple years ago.
Yeah. And then how about your last goal? Who'd you score your last goal against November 11th, 1990?
No clue.
It was against the Bruins, Reggie Lemelin. So there you go.
Reggie.
Your first and your last. All right, Frank, now the serious journalist question for Joel.
Oh, yeah, the real serious stuff. Joel, obviously 999 wins you hit last night on the precipice of a round number 1,000. Only Scotty Bowman has more. Congratulations. What's it like as you get to this milestone and you take a look around at your career and as we hit this break, what you've achieved?
Well, it's been a lot of fun along the way. I know that the stretch here recently has been, we've had kind of an up and down season. We had a great start, slow middle there, and then got it going a little bit here going into the break. So that's been pleasing, knowing that our team gets me excited about what can be accomplished. We missed some key players over this stretch, and we've been around. Been around some teams where we've been very fortunate to have a lot of skill, a lot of depth in our talent pool with younger players. Kind of reminiscent of where we're at today when I look back on what Chicago had and what we had in Florida. We're going to have a great, we got to have a great run here to get in the playoffs. I think that that's going to be a great experience for us as well, to find a way to get in and then try to get that momentum and see how it would work in the playoffs. A lot to be proven to get there, knowing how competitive it is. But team gives me a lot of good vibes on what was done before and what's needed and necessary. So got a lot of great ingredients. Fun group to work with, got a great staff here. I've been fortunate along the way to work with a lot of great teams, a lot of good players, a lot of great coaches, great managers. Support throughout the career has always been outstanding. And I can honestly say that I've been fortunate to work with really good teams and really talented teams that helped me along the way here.
Yeah, your squad could be in first place by the end of tonight in the Pacific Division. You're currently just 1 point behind Edmonton and Vegas. You got the Oilers tonight. I'm curious, when you're at full strength, when you have Leo and you have everybody, and Frank Vetrano maybe gives you more scoring depth as well, what's the strength of your team?
I think the strength of our team is we have balance between young and old, and we have high-end skill. We have great team speed. We've got an agile young defenseman that can move the puck well. Got a bright future in our goaltender that can, win games on his own right. A lot of good things. And I think that balance throughout our lineup, particularly with some good centermen here. We've added a couple of younger guys here. Maybe not necessarily younger, but when you look at Paling, what he's done, and Wash has done up in the middle as well here as we've gone along with our top guys, they filled in a real adequate way that our whole game, it can't be just with thinking that we can outscore our opponents. And I think we've been way more efficient playing without the puck, playing all three zones, playing more patient in our game, and it's reflected in the results. And I think that, adapting that from here on out is going to make us a better team.
For you, teaching is the name of the game. So take us inside what maybe that tougher stretch might have been like as your group had lost 9 of 11, a lot of goals going in. You mentioned playing without the puck. What was it like trying to work with this group that is so young through a stretch like that?
Well, it was a great test for us, knowing that everything kind of fell in there in a really good spot right out of the gate. Got off to a really good beginning, which we wanted to do. And then, of course, at some year or over the course of the year, you're going to have to face some adversity where things are going to go against you. And it just went on a lot longer than we envisioned or anticipated. 27 games or days without a win seems like an eternity in our league. And we fell out of the playoff picture, and then all of a sudden we just needed a win in the worst way. And all of a sudden we're missing maybe 3 of our top scorers or 4 of our top scorers in the first game or so going into that, trying to get that first win. And I think there is a commitment to playing more responsible. We knowing that in our league, if you don't play defense, you're not going to win. And there was a bigger commitment in all zones by all players, knowing that simplicity is going to be part of it. And our defensive zone coverage has got to get way better. We gave up a ton of chances earlier on in the year that the quality, we could say the other team had more quality than us, but we had a better finish. So that's been cleaned up by a wide margin compared to what we had to watch. Our goalies are getting a better workload and more manageable. It doesn't always have to be pretty. Simple is going to be efficient. There's got to be a buy-in there on both sides of it from the coaching staff and players. But, we got some results, and I think that can help, us moving forward, knowing that that's got to be part of our backbone, or not our backbone, but our, what we're trying to establish as a team and guide us to where we got to get to.
Remember last year talking hockey with you, Joel, we were chopping it up, and we were talking about one team, and you said, man, they got to get the puck in the middle of the ice more. They got to get the interior. And I remember that as I look at Cutter Gauthier play this year, almost all of his goals are between the dots. You must love how he takes the puck to the middle and how he can finish, and what a great player he's become. 25 goals already this year. I'm curious, though, what are the talking points you talk to him about to get him even to another level, to be like a legit high impact guy every night for 18 minutes both ways?
Well, he's an interesting player. He has got a tremendous release. He's got a great shot. He's got a deceptive shot. His speed is probably as fast as anybody in the game, and his quickness on his first couple strides can get some separation with him. He's got a shoot first mentality, which can be very healthy, and at times knowing there's some balance that needs to be applied. But I think the defensive part of the game is something that he's growing into. I think getting more engaged, whether it's physically in puck battle areas or more influential in the puck areas, are only going to add to him having more pucks or his line mates having more pucks. But he's dangerous. He's a threat. I just think he knows where to go, where he anticipates, where he can get that release and a shot away. But he beats a lot of goalies, not just with his velocity, but his quickness of the release. But he's been, we've gone through this stretch here. He shows up on the scoreboard regularly for us, and been very effective.
Joel, I enjoyed when Jackson Lacombe was selected to the U.S. Olympic team, and there was some outcry from some people on social media saying, why him? And I was just saying, well, you're telling on yourself that you don't stay up late to watch the Ducks on the West Coast. What did you know about Jackson Lacombe before you got there, and what surprised you about his game?
Well, I didn't know he was that smooth on the back end, where he looks like he can evade the first forechecker and all of a sudden skate back past the second guy. He's very deceptive in how well he moves, and he can get through people and past people, and very good puck mover. And evade forechecking pressure. Really does well with his partner. Troops is having a tremendous year as well. Kind of complimented when they won the World Championship there last summer. I think that's one of the big reasons why he's gone. But you do watch him play regularly, man. He does a lot of things big minutes, big important minutes, big shifts. Quietly goes about his business. Extremely quiet kid, but what a great guy. Very well liked as a teammate. Fun to coach.
You've worked obviously with multiple GMs in your career. How would you compare how you work with Pat Verbeek to other GMs? How has that changed over the years? A head coach, obviously head coaches back in the day had a lot of power. It seems more collaborative now. How does it work? How has that changed? The relationship between coach and GM from when you first started with the Blues as a young man, 38 years old, when you got your first head coaching job, to now?
Well, I've had all the general managers I had to work with have all been great to be around, and we always had a good relationship, and communication lines were always open. Beaker is hands-on. He likes to be involved. He's very familiar with the team. He's very familiar with what he wants to go or how he wants to get there, and keeps me in the loop. We have a good relationship and a great relationship on how we see things. Very comparable. And on the same type of wavelength, like where we want, how we going to get there, and how's that plan look? And I think that in the worst way, he wants to find a way to be a champion again, and we have very comparable goals in that regard. And I think our staff is outstanding as well. I think everybody understands everybody's role and job descriptions, and Beaker does a great job as far as knowing that there's a balance between the coach and what the general manager has his relationship with the players. But he does have a good relationship with the players and a good understanding that he keeps it open from his end and from our end as well. At the same time, I think we all understand everybody's roles together. And I think it's healthy that, he's as competitive a guy as you're ever going to be around. And I think we're probably comparable in that regard.
All right, I'm going to take a hard right turn here. You've played, or you're a veteran of many outdoor games as a coach. What did you think of John Cooper's fit in the Stadium Series on Sunday?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Well, when I first saw it, he must have lost the bet. And only Coop could have pulled that off like he did. I mean, that was perfect. I mean, we sat down, Coop and I, and had cigars, and and chewed some fat and talked about all kinds of things. But I think he had more pleasure lighting up that cigar walking out of there than anything about that whole day. But he's a tremendous coach. We got a good relationship going, and we've had some battles, on the ice with our teams, but no, we get along very well. And I wish him well going away here soon. But I thought he might have looked more like Arturo Fuente than he did maybe the gangster that he was doing there in Scarface. But tell me who he looks like, but hey, he looks pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I tweeted out, if you wear that, you have to win the game. Like, what, you can't lose and wear that. You know what I mean?
What a setup that was. Oh, I know. That's why I thought the hockey gods were punishing him, and they're down 5-1 for wearing that outfit. He pulled it off, so that goes to show that he can wear it. They backed it up.
That kind of reminds me with him going over to the Olympics, obviously, and being the head coach of Canada. All those years you were winning the cup. I always wonder why you weren't the guy getting those big Canadian gigs to coach the Team Canadas back at, whether it was the World Cup in 2016. Did you ever wonder why you weren't getting, it was Mike Babcock kept getting those gigs. You had won 3 cups. Was there any, not bitterness, but just like, man, I wish that was me. Like, why not me?
I couldn't be bitter with it. I mean, we did get to go with Babs, and we won the World Cup that year. So as an assistant,
right.
To me, you're part of the staff. You feel like you won the cup. So it's I had the same feeling when I was an assistant in Colorado in 96. So it was like you feel whether the title is different than it was or is. You still feel like you're doing what you can to help and be a part of it. Is basically you get the same thrill. I feel when whether you're assistant or head coach, that it's equally meaningful.
Joel, last one for me. What will you do during the break? I'm told you're an avid pickleballer. What's the shape of your game right now?
My pickleball had one experience all year, and we enjoyed it. And I believe we're in Carolina when we went and played. And then, but I don't know if I'm going to get pickleball in. We're going to go to Colorado, and I don't know if we'll get that in. But that skiing is going to be poor, I heard. So I don't know if we'll get that in either. But either way, we're going to go away for a few days. But there's nothing. I don't know why we want to leave where we're at right now.
Yeah, me neither. Geez, that looks beautiful. And my last one, Joel. Wasn't there a story back with the Hartford Whalers where you were in full uniform and the bus broke down in the downtown Hartford and you were walking to the rink in full gear or something? I think Ferraro told me a story like that with the Whalers one time.
Well, we used to have to dress at the rink downtown and practice out in West Hartford. So it's like about a 10 or 15-minute drive. So we'd always be in our equipment driving to the rink and back from the rink. And then, next thing you know, there's going to be races and guys are having their helmets on and driving in traffic. and it was every day there was a story about the ride to or from the rink. And Pee Wee, I don't know. I had the pleasure of seeing him the other day in Vancouver, and boy, he makes me laugh. But telling stories with him about the whale, he remembers every story about the whale.
He does.
On the bench saying all these things on the bench. I goes, Pee Wee, I don't even remember any of this stuff. And he's boy, what a mind he has for the game and the memory he has for the experiences of those days in Hartford, though. But we do have a great collection of guys around that we still keep in tune and touch with, but the whale has a lot of good stories, and some of it all started from our rides to West Hartford rink and back.
Yeah, a unique team, a unique logo, a unique place, and just all the players and, like you said, executives and agents, whether it's Layut and for his Verbeek now and yourself and Ferraro as a broadcaster, just every point of the game has been touched by the whale in one way or the other. Quite a collection.
The whale lives. We love it. And nice to see those whales
forever.
Last week, there are a couple of places they showed up. It was not good to see again.
Absolutely. Well, again, 999 career wins for Joel Quenneville. Hope he gets 1,000 tonight as they're home against the Edmonton Oilers. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the break, Joel, and good luck making the playoffs.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Joel Quenneville, the Q-Stash, head coach of the Anaheim Ducks, back in the league. And, boy, life is good there in Newport Beach, Frank.
Yeah, no kidding. And love to see the turnaround. By the way, one story that you mentioned, the idea of taking you're putting your equipment on and going to the practice rink. There's a great story of the Flyers in the 80s. If you come from the airport to get back into Jersey, where the team's practice facility and a lot of the players live, they convinced a rookie that as you go over the bridge and you pay the toll, that if you speed up real fast and you just yell Flyers, that you don't have to pay the toll. So at some point, this guy's convinced, and every time he goes through, he's yelling Flyers, and like no one knows what's happening. Finally, at some point, the guard puts the thing down and says, "Sir, what are you doing?" And he said, "They just told me if I yell Flyers that I'm good." He's like, "I don't care what you yell. Give me $1."
That is so good. God, we're so gullible at a young age. I would have believed that if I was a 19-year-old rookie for the Flyers. Let's circle back to your trade targets. This is interesting here. Jesper Wallstedt. Could he possibly be in play if Bill Guerin's looking to hit another 3-run home run?
Well, that's the only way that it would happen, would be if it is a 3-run home run. I mean, the Minnesota Wild view Jesper Wallstedt as a legitimate number one goalie at the age of 23. I mean, what he's done this season, transitioning to the NHL from the AHL, is a big question mark, by the way. Sub 880 save percentage in the AHL last year, comes to the NHL level and has been lights out, 914 save percentage. So you're saying, well, why would they trade him? Well, they don't want to, but if they go out and can find that number one center that they've been longing for that fits their age scheme, well, then Jesper Wallstedt would be an interesting trade chip, because you've got Philip Gustafsson on a deal that didn't begin yet. So his contract extension kicks in next year. Obviously, Gustafsson would be the guy, and you've got a Wallstedt trade chip to move. But I'm not I shouldn't say that it's likely. It's just that has been talked about a lot externally and not so much internally, near as I can tell.
Yeah, Gustafsson is good. He signed long-term at a good number. And so, yeah, would you trade for a number one center, a guy who likely is only going to be playing 30 to 40 games a year, at least in the foreseeable future? So it's a tough decision, but it's certainly there. Hey, by the way, David Pastrnak will be a flag bearer. We talked about it yesterday. Only Zdeno Chara before these Olympics was an NHL player who was a flag bearer for his country. Well, you can add Pasta to the list. Congratulations to him. It's a huge honor.
Leon Draisaitl and David Pastrnak both will be carrying the flags for their country in the opening ceremonies on Thursday.
So we're up to 2 now. All right. Let's ask the insider, that is Frank Saravalli, with the phone in his shower. How will the Canucks handle vets with term? Pettersson, Besser, DeBrusk, Garland, etc.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because at some point this week, early in the week, there seemed to be a suggestion among general managers that Connor Garland might be one of those guys to potentially move this week before the 3 p.m. deadline. I think that's rather unlikely at this point in time, but my understanding is that the Canucks are ready and willing to consider just about anything. It's not their preference to move their vets with term. And as each vet that you move or remove from your team, essentially, it lengthens the amount of time required to then rebuild. So how long do you want to stay in this phase where you're then trying to spool up again? Each one that you pluck off, aside from the obvious ones like an Evander Kane, who is a pending UFA, who will move before March 6th, it adds time to the build. And that's something that they're very conscious of. But if you can, do you remember back in the day on Zillow? I don't know if you ever looked for a house in this stretch of time, but there was like this thing called Make Me Move. You weren't really interested in selling your house, but you put a crazy number on there and it was like, this is what it would take for me to pack my shit and go. Well, that's essentially where the Canucks are at with some of these players. DeBrusk, you mentioned Pettersson, Garland. If you can knock their socks off, they're going to move them. But if not, they don't really have any interest in making a deal just to clear up the cap space, because then they're going to have to go out and overpay someone else later. And these guys are on good deals that it doesn't really make a lot of sense to chase your tail. So they're very cognizant of that along the way.
Yeah, that was kind of my thing with the Nick Paul trade from Ottawa and the Hagel trade from Chicago. They did that at a time when they were kind of rebuilding. But the point is, those guys wouldn't have affected your rebuild. They never would have been that expensive. And when you get good, now you're going to go look for a Brendan Hagel and a Nick Paul to kind of, to fill those kind of gaps. And so you do have to be careful when you make those kinds of moves. The older guys, certainly you can see the established vets, what they are for the most part. But like even a Pettersson, again, I'm not a big Pettersson guy. I don't think long-term he's strong enough to be a big, forceful number one center kind of a guy. But, you never know. #hockey. If you're a bird, I'm a bird. The last thing I gave her was the bird. Great George Jones country song. The girlfriend buys him a parrot, right? So there's a parrot in the house. He has an affair with Big Betty Brown. And of course, the parrot starts repeating words. And so now the girlfriend finds out about Big Betty Brown. So she kicks him out of the house. And out of his house, she leaves. And the last thing he gives her is the bird. Great double entendre there was the parrot as squawking, talking, telling everything he ever heard. If you're a bird, I'm a bird, Frank. Go. Unless you're about to break
this
news
was
a big trade.
Yeah, I'm actually just messaging back and forth here. This was an epic scene last night at UBS Arena. Somehow, very typical. Feels like this would only happen in New York kind of thing. A bird seeking, whether it's a train station, a subway stop, whatever. They just decided UBS Arena is the place to stay out from the cold. Not only in the building, like not up in the rafters, but like running into Bo Horvat on the ice. So check this out.
Yeah.
Mic'd up too.
Bird in here. I ran into him. Dude, I ran into him behind the net. Poor guy.
Are you kidding? Bananas.
It's like when you go into Home Depot You see those birds up there in the rafters right of Home Depot, because obviously they got the big doors and they're all open, and they got the area where the flowers and the nursery is, and the birds just fly in there and they go. So yeah, that is something. No guy named Bird's ever played in the NHL. I remember Doug Bird, the baseball pitcher, but yeah, no one named Bird. So Rory Sparrow, former New York Knick as well. All right, Frank, we got to speculate to accumulate. And there was one guy named Sparrow in the NHL. Emery Sparrow played 8 games for the Boston Bruins in the 24-25 season. So we do have a Sparrow who played in the NHL. Emery Sparrow, born in 1898, died 1965 from Manitoba. Emery Sparrow. Maybe that was the spirit of Emery Sparrow returning, trying to get his one NHL goal that he never was able to get for the Boston Bruins. 8 games, no points. All right. We got to speculate to accumulate, Frank. How we doing?
We were accumulating last night. Got the win.
Nice. Look at you. Double digit.
Yeah, it was a line that just didn't make sense to either one of us, and we were able to cash in. And now tonight, this is a massive game for both teams. Seattle at LA. We've mentioned before that the Kings are really trying to figure out what they have here. How aggressive should they be when it comes to the deadline? Technically, looking at the standings, you'd see that the Kings are outside of the playoff cut line, but then you sort the divisions by points percentage, and the Kings are actually in by the hair of their chin. Nonetheless, the Kraken have been the way more consistent team of late, and they're a relatively big favorite on the road tonight in LA. So I understand the situation. It is a back-to-back, but not far travel. The Kraken were in Anaheim last night, so just up the road to LA. They could have slept in their LA beds early last night. So I like the Kraken at a relatively juicy plus 150 on the road to pick up a massive 2 points over the Kings. And this is one of those 4-point swing games, or maybe one of those 3-point games as we've seen a million times in the NHL this season.
Yeah, for some reason, the Kings have almost twice as many road wins as home wins. They have 8 home wins, 15 road wins. I'm not sure why that's the case. They do have obviously a terrible problem scoring goals. They only have 143 this year. They're very two similar teams across the board, and obviously they're not surprised. They're separated by 1 point. LA has 1 game in hand. But yeah, right now, Seattle is the second wild card. Utah is the first wild card. And as we mentioned, Anaheim is third in the Pacific and can be first tonight if Vegas loses to the Canucks for some reason at home in regulation, and Anaheim beats Edmonton. The Ducks will be in first place in the Pacific at the Olympic break. So Seattle and LA is Frank's call tonight. The Kraken on the money line. The last word, say it ain't so. WaPo, the Washington Post. Frank says goodbye to the sports section.
Yeah, and what an institution, I mean, the Washington Post is in general. And that's what makes today such disappointing news, as not just a journalist, but as a fan of journalism. The Washington Post isn't just any sports section. It's the sports section, I believe, in the country. Best staff, best coverage, best design. And they've been that way, holding that prize for decades. They could go toe-to-toe with any sports section in the country back in the heyday of newspapers. And when you look at this group, and particularly the people that have covered hockey, they cover it on a national level and a local level. They do both those things at once, which is incredibly difficult. And so we had Bailey Johnson on the show last week as these rumors started to circulate that the Washington Post might be closing their sports section. And it's really unconscionable to think that the Post, really one of the last standing bastions of independent coverage, won't be around the Caps on a daily basis. Like, that does not compute. And so feel for Bailey Johnson, who announced this morning that she is indeed part of the layoffs, as they're mostly closing off the sports section. They're calling it their feature team is going to write about sports as a, quote, cultural phenomenon, which I don't even know what that corporate speak means. But when you think of how the Caps have been covered by the Washington Post, and in particular, some incredible women journalists that have come through and have done an amazing job. Rachel Nichols got her start in sports covering the Caps. the run of women of late, from Bailey Johnson to Sam Pell to Isabel Kershudian to Katie Carrera, and in between you had Tarek El-Bashir and Alex Pruitt. Like, these guys were titans of the hockey journalism community. I can't believe that we're not going to have that continue on. And so when you think about Jeff Bezos, and I understand it's a business, they want to make smart business decisions, but you know, I go back to what I first said. This is an American institution. Since Jeff Bezos purchased the Washington Post, his net worth has increased by $224 billion. I'm fairly certain that he could continue to underwrite losses at the Washington Post in perpetuity. Not that everyone wants to, but there is a way to do it and do it smart. And I'm really disappointed, not just for colleagues, but for the hockey world, because we're losing great coverage.
Yeah, we talked about it. Our love of newspapers. I grew up with newspapers, had the Boston Globe delivered to my college dorm my senior year just to read great writers, and their amazing Hall of Fame staff they had in every sport. And it was part of my dream to work in media and broadcasting, and that was certainly at that time still high cachet to be a sports writer in one of these big sports cities. It fueled my passion for sports, how well they wrote. It was an education in writing and reading and intellect and wit. It was all of it, all in for 25 cents, 50 cents on a newspaper. And I'll still buy a Sunday Globe every now and then in the summer. And I don't buy it every week, and I don't get it every day like most Americans got. I grew up with one as a kid. My dad would get the local paper, whether in Pennsylvania, the Indiana Evening Gazette or the Wheeling Intelligencer. When we moved to Ohio, the Wheeling, West Virginia paper, because it was a morning paper. And I read the whole thing. And unfortunately, people aren't buying newspapers now anymore, and trying to process it digitally. They're trying to, I don't think they quite made that transition either, Frank, did they? They just didn't quite go from newspaper where a kid would keep reading it on his phone.
You would think that the guy who figured out how to really change online retailing forever with Amazon might be able to figure out how to do this as well.
Right. And it's sad that the kids don't read as much as they do. And maybe we'll get back to that soon, as they seem to be rebelling against a lot of this tech world that we live in now, the whole 2016 thing. We talked about that. And maybe there will be a bit of a retro, and maybe it's some way someone can figure out how to return to a daily reading of local. And sports is such a huge institution in this country. It's a giant business. It's massively popular.
What?
Yeah. All right, so we await, again, the roster freeze at 3 o'clock today. We're T-minus 2 hours and a couple of minutes. Anything new to report, Frank, as we sat here for the last 60 minutes?
No, there's a couple things percolating outside of Artemi Panarin. So hold all tickets, as they say in the horse racing world, a nod to Joel Quenneville. Hold all tickets. There's definitely some other things percolating.
All right, so yeah, maybe take it down to that maybe 2 o'clock Eastern, and then that last hour, maybe that's the final full court push where everyone's trying to.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to blink, right? You going to wait? We'll wait. All right. Mm-hmm. So stay on the phone. Follow Frank on X. Not in the shower if you can. It must be. Do they sell anything on Amazon where you can kind of clip it on the outside so you can look at it and refresh it with your brain? Have we got that technology yet?
Yeah, I think they're just waterproof now, is the truth.
All right.
As I've learned.
So that's Frankly Hockey. So we're stalling here just in case we get that big trade at the buzzer and we can go for another 5 minutes, but because that's how much we love hockey. All right. Thank you, Frankly Hockey viewer, downloader, Victory Plus app. We're here to serve. Frank is here to serve, and follow him. And thanks for following us every day. We'll see you tomorrow. Maybe we'll have news to report on Frankly Hockey. Thank you. 5 days a week.